Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the 2024 KTM 790 Adventure, and let's just put it out there. At this moment, this is probably my favorite adventure bike, and I almost bought it, and maybe I can work out some finances to buy it in the future. But it may or may not be the best adventure bike for you. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a number of things that the other videos aren't talking about. We're going to go in depth with this vehicle. And before we go too deep, I want to thank McLean Sports for giving me complete access to their entire product line. So if you have questions about this bike that I don't answer, or anything in the lineup or anything that I review, if you have questions that I don't get to in this video, let me know in the comment section the types of things you want to know, and I'll make sure I come back to it and get you all the information I can. Do me a favor, guys. We've been doing a little test here. If you hit that like button, it really helps me out. If you want to help me support this channel, the more kind of traction this gets, the more time I get to spend giving you guys reviews of more and more and more things. So I really appreciate that. And again, if you want to subscribe, if this is your kind of thing, I have stuff as often as I can, as much as every weekday, doing best I can to get that out there as well. So thanks for all of that. Let's get going with this review. So I want to place this in a class, but I also want to clarify a couple little things. Adventure bikes are kind of difficult to label best of, simply because adventure bikes to adventure riders are many different things. Some people buy adventure bikes purely for the off-road capability, and in that case, this would not be better than the 890R or the 890, adventure of any flavor, simply because this is a little bit more road-oriented. It has a couple less specs that I would have liked to see on this bike, and if you're purely off-road adventure, there are better bikes than this. However, if you're purely on-road adventure bike, this one may or may not be best suited for you. There are other ones with more road-oriented tires, so adventure bike can be a real kind of cross mix. Here's what I consider to be a great adventure bike for me, and you can sort of see how your biases may sit differently. For me, an adventure bike is a motorcycle that lets you go anywhere. Now this one, as we're going to talk about a little bit later, has a little bit more off-road type tread than something like the Suzuki V-Strom, which has a sort of that 90-10. To me, this is more appealing even if I was to drive 90-10 on the road, simply because it's when I go off-road that I want to have good traction. A lot of people look at sort of 90-10 tires and go, I do 90% of my driving on the road, 10% off-road, that's what I'm going to go with. But for me, even if I did 90% on-road, which is not necessarily how I would use this, the ability to have better traction off-road matters to me more so than the ability to have fantastic traction on the road. But there's a lot of things about this bike that I really like. So an adventure bike to me, something that can go anywhere, something that you can plan a trip out and take any detour. You could head down a dirt road, you could head down a trail, and you could head down a little bit tougher than a trail. Now for my riding skill, I'm not going to take this in a place that I would take a pure dual sport or a pure dirt bike. Simply the size and weight of adventure bikes. I think for a lot of us, we want to be able to go down those rough country roads, those dirt roads, those sort of semi-finished trails with ruts and other kinds of things, but nothing too much more extreme than that. And if that's who you are, then you and I agree, and this might be a great bike for you. If it's not who you are, I'll still try to cover this bike to give you a sense of how it fits the overall adventure rider. But like I said, those are my biases, so you have them right out front. Let's start this review from the front wheel. We're going to work our way back through the specs. We're going to talk about a lot of things that make it different. And like I said, I'm going to talk about things other videos aren't talking about. So let's get going. All right, I'm definitely a broken record on this one, but if you've seen my videos before, you know I love to start with the front wheel because that tells you the manufacturer's intent. And manufacturer's intent is very much a adventure bike here, but you've got off-road type stuff. Not every adventure bike, or at least bike that claims to be an adventure type bike, has a 21-inch front wheel. So 21-inch diameter front wheel. So 21 and 18 here, that's typical dirt bike stuff. And you've got the Pirelli Scorpion Rally STR. These aren't the best off-road tires available, but if you take a look at the tread a little bit there, hopefully you can see, let me just use my watch as a viewfinder there, you can see that they are more grippy than the typical 90-10. And again, I don't mean to knock on the Suzuki V-Strom, I think it's a great bike, but there's more off-road friendly than that. So you have something that's going to be comfortable and capable on the road. There are better road tires, and comfortable and capable on the off-road. There are better off-road tires. This is a compromise bike for a reason, but I think they do a really good job with getting the compromise right. Of course, spoked wheels, that's going to give you that off-road ability. You don't want to go with cast wheels off-road. And then you've got the dual disc brakes. You've got the radial mount calipers, which is a lot like a super sport bike. It means it's going to have a little bit more stiffness. The upside down forks here, so same idea, going to have more stiffness up top. You've got a steering damper in there. You do not have adjustable suspension on the 790s. You do have that on the 890s, so a little bit, that's sort of one thing I would have liked. We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it is well designed. So overall, what you have is typical adventure bike stuff with decent quality. In fact, quite high quality stuff for the price you pay. And we're going to talk about that price you pay in a second. Let's move back through the bike a little bit, talk a little bit more. So taking a look at the heart of the bike and a little bit outside of that, you can see some revised bodywork compared to the older, what was it, 2019 or whatever model. But again, this is sort of the newer version. We're going to talk about what's controversial about this in a second, so don't worry. But let's talk about what you have at the heart of the bike. First of all, you have the approximately 790cc engine. This one makes about 95 horsepower. The 890 makes about 105 horsepower. So you're not really that much down on power overall, but you've got good power numbers. In fact, what I would consider to be class leading power numbers, certainly for the price point. That's a big piece of it. And this engine's a little bit rowdy. It's a lot of fun to drive. You can wheelie up, you can do those kinds of things. It's got that torque down low that you need to drive off-road. So quality engine here that sounds a little rattly when it gets going. That's what it is. Now, some people debate quality on this kind of thing. I'm not as concerned about quality as some people are, but that's obviously the concern, and you can make that decision for yourself. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. The biggest thing the 790 does is it still has these drop-down fuel tanks over here. Now, some people don't like the style of this. I don't mind them at all. I think they work really well. So as someone who comes from a street bike type environment, this is the most street bike feeling capable adventure bike that I've been on, and part of it is dropping this down low. I used to drive a Kawasaki Versys 650, not an adventure bike, although it had the same sort of upright seating position as a bike like this. But when you put 21 liters of fuel into the fuel tank up here, you really felt that top heaviness, where this one, the fuel down low is going to increase the weight of the bike when you fill it up, of course, but it's going to lower the center of gravity of the bike, which makes it feel lightweight and maneuverable, and you gain that lightweight maneuverability when that fuel's in there. Both on the road and off-road, both parking, anything. Again, having that weight down here makes a difference. Now, you get a few side benefits of these tanks down here. You don't have to put crash bars on here because this is made to take an impact. Now, this plastic will scratch and this kind of thing. You can get a even tougher like metal plate down here. This one's still, I think it's metal. Yeah, it is. But you can get tougher plates and that kind of thing. But the point is, this means you don't have to add extra weight and extra expense of a crash bar. You've got some protection down here for your engine and that kind of thing. So you've got a lot of benefits by putting the tank here, and the looks don't bother me at all. In fact, it gives you one more benefit. When your foot is on the brake lever here or the clutch lever, you've got a little extra wind protection. And on an adventure bike, when you're heading out early in the morning to go on an all-day travel, it can be cool sometimes having that little wind protection. Makes a difference. So a lot of little benefits to the design here. Let's pull out for a second and we're going to show you me sitting on the bike, because that's another benefit that this bike has that's really kind of cool. All right, so as I approach this bike, like I said, I don't have that Versys 650 bike anymore, but I really liked riding longer distances on that bike. It gave me the wind protection, and when you jump on this, although this is not a sport touring bike like that Versys 650 was, it feels a lot like it. Both my toes are on the ground. I'm about 6 feet tall. I don't know my exact inseam, but I'm a proportional 6-footer. So a lot of time I'm much more tippy-toed and much less comfortable on an adventure bike. And the thing with an adventure bike is you're gonna take it into uneven ground areas. So sometimes when you stop or when you stall out, or stall out as far as speed and that kind of thing, not necessarily stall the engine, but when you come to a stop, your foot's not always in the right place. Sometimes it's in a little bit of a rut. And having something that allows you to reach the ground easily gives you confidence both on-road and off-road. And that's one of my big problems with adventure bikes. I have a road bike history. And when I take a heavier bike, although this doesn't feel that heavy at all, but when you take a heavier bike off-road, you get a little bit more nervous when you're into those things, whereas this one gives you full confidence, and I really like that. This mirror is way out of adjustment. We'll have to fix that. Sorry if you noticed that in the video. All right, so how do I look up here? Well, you get a lot of benefit here. First of all, I find this seat to be quite comfortable. The windshield here, there's some controversy about could it cause buffeting. Some people say it causes buffeting for them, some people say it doesn't, but the general feel still is that it takes the pressure off, so you get some pressure relief when you're driving those longer distances, which for me is going to be a key thing. So again, upright seating position, very comfortable. The bars are decently wide, so you have control. The seat comes way up here. Again, there's no tank in here, the fuel drops lower, so the rubberized part of the seat allows you to have that kind of grip as you're hanging around, moving around, but also if you're standing in an upright position, you can still grip that actual seat as opposed to just plastic or metal up here. So it gives you a better adventure riding position. This bike's all about confidence, not just on the road, but off the road. So you get a lot of good things there. And again, very, very comfortable riding position for me. You could definitely ride this all day. Let's keep going around the bike. We're gonna start talking about some of the technology as well. So before we dig into technology, let's talk about two things that seem to be controversial. One thing I'll agree with, one thing I'm gonna argue a little bit. Let's talk the thing I'm gonna argue. This bike is less money now than it used to be when it was out before in a previous generation. It's a better bike now than it was, but it costs a little bit less money. Why? It is now manufactured in China. If that means you're out, then so be it. But before you turn out this video, hear me out for 1 second. The cell phone you have in your pocket, in fact, the cell phone I'm using to film this with was also very likely made in China. I mean, mine was made in China. It's an iPhone. Lots of high-end components are now made in China. Made in China when I grew up meant cheap. Made in China now means inexpensive, but some of the highest quality, most precision things, like for instance an iPhone. If you've ever seen an iPhone introduction, the introduction is the precision, the quality, the thing, the this, the that, the everything. Most of them, in fact, I think almost all of them are made in China. So China is capable of producing high quality goods to high quality customers and high quality companies, and KTM may actually see a bump in their quality because it is so scrutinized that they are using a factory in China. If it bothers you for political reasons, or all kinds of other reasons for buying foreign things, hey, then this isn't the bike for you. But that's what puts this bike into the category of other bikes, at least price category of other bikes, but this one has more features. So let's talk about the technology in a second, but before we do that, we have to talk about the other controversial thing. This bike comes equipped as is with the ability to have cruise control, quick shifter, and a number of other features, a rally mode, all kinds of things. From the factory, it's got all that in there, but you have to actually pay extra to unlock it. So there's a cruise control switch here. First 1,500 kilometers, you're gonna have all those options, and then it ends. So they let you test it out, and then at 1,500 kilometers, it ends. Now you can buy up front, you can buy later on those extra pieces. Is it controversial? Yes. Do I care? Part of me is like, if it's in the bike, I'd like it, but part of me is like, you know what? Otherwise, if they didn't put it in, they'd charge you extra, then they'd have to take apart your bike, put different controls on, that kind of thing to add these features, and it would probably cost you more to put some of those features on. I didn't design the feature. At the end of the day, buying this bike for the price, adding those features on is how I would do it from the start. You still have a great value bike, but that's a controversy. It's not up to me. Let's keep going with what the tech you do get. All right, so I'm filming this in wide angle, which means the outside view here is kind of skewed, but I'm just trying to show you everything here. You've got this display screen here, you've got a little USB port there. A couple of the nice things on this bike is having the handlebars here. There's lots of handlebar space. You could put an extra GPS in there. Now there is a GPS ability of the dash here through an app. Some people say that's fine for them, some people say that isn't. You can also get a piece up here that mounts a GPS, and again, it can all be wired in cleanly. It fits nicely underneath. Typical GPS would fit nicely underneath this vent over here. So you've got options, and you've got options to power that up, and that matters. Now, controversially, you can see in the corner of your screen here, we do have the cruise control switch. After 1,500 kilometers, that does nothing for you unless you buy the extra. It is what it is. I would buy the extra. It's still a good value. A couple little things. We'll talk about brake levers, clutch levers, other things in a second, but let's zoom into the screen now, and we'll turn the bike on. So we'll come all the way in. I really like this screen. I don't know what it is about it. I find it to be one of the better screens and one of the better just software setups that you have. Now again, I'm filming outside here, and you haven't got the best angle to see everything. You haven't got everything you need. So we've got a number of things in here. First of all, the tachometer, it is pretty tough to read right now, but we'll zoom in a little bit. You can sort of see that tachometer in gray. Again, filming a screen on a screen on a camera like this is harder to show, but you've got a lot going on here. So we're going to try to cycle through some of this stuff down here. We're going to go to a menu thing. We're going to go down to the bike info. Now I love this screen. You can see the green there. Green means it's good. So the battery's good. And again, you're having trouble just on the angle you're seeing, but the battery's good. The fuel tank is good. There's blue there on the radiator, which means that the bike's not up to temperature yet. But at a glance, you can see things are good. Now you could add tire pressure monitors to this bike. bike and it would tell you those as well. So there's lots of options in the Power Parts accessories catalog that you could put on this bike, but so many little things are in here that are kind of cool. You can set up your trips, trip odometers, that kind of thing, and then you get into all these settings. So you can set favorites up. You can set certain buttons to do different things. There's your quick selectors, you can set them up. Daytime running light, you can switch that. Shift light, you can set where you want that. There's all kinds of things in here. Even the heating type things. Right now you can get heated grips as an option. You can get heated seats as an option. And there's extra functions. There's a demo mode, which is that 1,500 kilometers of sort of getting all those things. So there's a lot of things in here. What I like about it is you can use all of those settings menus while you're riding, both driving modes, everything. There's a rally mode here, which allows you to have the excuse me, I'm moving this camera there, it shook a little bit. But the rally mode allows you to have various levels, up to 10 settings, allows you to sort of spin that rear tire with the traction control and let the rear wheel slide out a little bit. So we'll just come out a little bit. So the idea that you can let your rear wheel slide out to a point, and there's various settings in that. All of these things are things I would add to it. One of the cool things of this bike is it is the only one in its price class that I'm aware of. CF Moto might be something different, but it has an IMU. In other words, it can sense the angle of the bike, it can sense if it's wheeling, it can sense if it's sliding out, and the traction control and all those things can work with all of those components. So that means that it has cornering sensitive ABS, cornering sensitive traction control, all of the things where, you know, it can wheelie control, all of those things where the angle, the spin, the yaw, the G-forces, all those stuff on the bike, it can sense and make adaptations with the electronics, and it's got a very good electronics package if you subscribe to every single piece of it. So good dash, good electronics. Let's look at the controls for a second now. So what you're looking at right now is the very top of the left side fork tube, and on the 890 and previous 790s you would have a little manual adjustment here, and KTM is so great with their adjustable suspension because they don't make you take tools along. You can adjust it in theory while you're riding, but certainly while you're stopped with your hands without any tools. 790 does not come with that anymore. Now, to be fair, this bike is very well tuned for what it's going to be doing. It can handle heavy off-road stuff, but I really would have liked to have adjustable suspension still, and you can see on this fork tube and on that fork tube, there is no adjustable suspension on the front. I think it's just preload adjustment in the back. It's something I wish it had. It doesn't have it. It is what it is. Take a look at the very front of the bike here. We're going to just sort of turn it on again here. One of the things, oh, we already have it on. Yeah, so we don't have the, well, can we flash the high beam? What can we do? Nope, can't do anything. Oh, we can flash the high beam there. So you do have the outside daytime running light there, typical KTM stuff. The really big point I want to point out was not so much the lighting, is the taller windshield. The 890 comes with a standard lower windshield. You could get this as an option. This one comes with a standard taller windshield. You can get the lower one as an option. Also, remember, there's an SMT model that uses similar type things, and it comes with a shorter windshield as well. So this is the tallest windshield out of all of them. Again, some people have said it causes some buffeting, but it does give you extra protection between the handguards, the tank, everything else, the design. Your rider position actually has pretty good wind protection, which is nicer for cooler days as well. So before we talk about who this bike is for, the other thing I really want to talk about is this comes with a standard rack here that is basically level with the rear seat. If you're not taking a whole lot of stuff, you just want to strap on a duffel bag and go with your stuff right there, no problem, it's set up to do that. If you want to buy aftermarket soft bags or something like that, there are a ton of bags that will fit this bike and other things that strap on really well. Soft bags are nice if you're going to hit damage, if you're worried about dropping it or that kind of thing. You're not going to dent or scratch bags. I like to put on hard bags, and there's a couple types of hard bags. You can get the big, you know, like the sort of squared off boxes, or you can get a little bit more designed boxes. Some of them are plastic, some of them are more metal or aluminum in nature. So you can do all those kind of things. The reason I like the hard boxes is because they're lockable. For me to be able to have something where I can put stuff in those containers and make them lockable, that means I can leave the bike anywhere, go for a hike, do other things. I got the key on here, I'm going to turn that off for now. But you can get all kinds of accessories, and that matters. You can get center stands on here. You can get all kinds of things to make this the type of bike that you want. And the nice thing is you don't have to buy all those things up front. You can buy them later if you want. So let's talk about who this bike is for. First of all, KTM makes a rowdy bike. It is just fun to drive. It kind of makes you want to go. When they turn on the dash and it says ready to race, that's kind of what these bikes are. They're kind of lively and fun. So that's a big piece of it. Then they give you more horsepower for $1 than just about all the other bikes in its class, probably all the other bikes in the class. I think it is class leading horsepower. So you have that going for you as well, which is nice for a few reasons. One, if you want to be a little rowdy with it, but two, if you're going high speed on the highway, you're not working it as hard, you know, percentage-wise, as you might be another bike, which is nice to have as well. The ability to have this feel like a street bike and the weight down low means that people who aren't as used to going off-road are going to be more comfortable. Those who are used to going off-road are still going to be comfortable as well. So let's talk about a couple things in the competition. Yamaha Tenere is going to be more off-road, lower tech. The Suzuki V-Strom, to me, is going to be more on-road and still less tech. This gives you kind of that sweet spot. For me, what I love about this bike is it feels familiar, it's unintimidating, it's got good power, it's got good fuel efficiency. You can go on long trips, or you can drive it around town, and it's perfectly suited to do all of those things. And what I like is you can truly explore with this bike. Having a little bit more of an off-road tire than something like the V-Strom allows you to just take any dirt road, any trail that you want to head down, like, you know, normal type trail, without even thinking about it. It can handle it right off the bat. And again, the general design of it makes it good. You can tour with this. You can stick on a back bag and side bags. And just one quick notice, because the exhaust is higher, your side bags here on the right side is a little bit smaller than it would be on the left side. Some other bikes don't have that same compromise, and you can work around that as well. But you can take as much luggage on this that you'd have nearly Goldwing type levels of luggage in something that is smaller, more compact, more easy to ride and fun. So what is a great adventure bike for you? Is it purely off-road? Go for the 890, go for the Tenere. Is it something with cruise control, high tech, cornering ABS, cornering traction control, that kind of thing, weight down low? This is your way to go. V-Strom is a great bike and I love it. And if you don't need all the technology, the V-Strom is something worth considering. It is a little heavier, it is a little tiny bit larger, but again, maybe if that's what you want, that's fine. All of these things are good. Some people like it because the V-Strom has been known to be absolutely bulletproof. V-Strom is still available in the 650. It now has an 800, which is similar displacement to this, but it does make a little bit less power than this. There's other models as well. I still think this is the perfect adventure bike for me. Takes you anywhere, gives you the technology, great on the road, great off the road, and it makes it feel like a street bike compared to the adventure bikes. It's way less intimidating. So that is my review of, right now, my favorite adventure bike out there. Let me know the types of things you want to know. If there's something I left out that you think I need to cover, by all means let me know, and I'll make sure I cover it in future videos. We're gonna have more on this bike simply because I like it, but do me a favor, hit a like on this video if you made it this far. Maybe you should subscribe. We've got lots of other stuff like this coming up. So thanks again. This was a long one. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you next time.